Marcus Rivera adjusted his environmental suit's air recycler for the third time that morning, watching the amber warning light flicker on his oxygen display. Kepler 442b wasn't exactly hostile to human life, but it wasn't friendly either. The mining corporation had sent him here to survey mineral deposits, not to play nursemaid to whatever strange creatures inhabited this verdant world. The crystalline formations jutting from the forest floor caught the light of the system's twin suns, casting prismatic rainbows across the moss-covered ground. Marcus had been documenting these structures for 2 weeks, but today something felt different. The usual chittering of the small, bat-like creatures had gone silent, and an odd tension hung in the air like the moments before a thunderstorm. That's when he heard it. A soft, mewling cry that tugged at something primal in his chest. Marcus followed the sound through a grove of towering, spiral-trunked trees until he found the source. Huddled against the base of a massive root system was a creature no larger than a house cat, but unlike anything in Earth's evolutionary record. Its fur shimmered between silver and deep blue, depending on the angle of light, and its 6 limbs ended in delicate, almost hand-like appendages. Most striking were its eyes, large, intelligent, and filled with unmistakable hunger and fear. The cub, for that's what it had to be, tried to scramble away when it spotted Marcus, but its movements were weak and unsteady. It hadn't eaten in days, maybe longer. Marcus knelt slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and non-threatening. He'd spent enough time around Earth's wildlife to recognize universal body language. The creature's ears, pointed and mobile like a fox's, swiveled toward him while its body remained pressed against the root. "Hey there, little one," Marcus murmured, his voice gentle despite the suit's communication system. "You look like you could use a friend." He reached into his pack and pulled out one of his emergency ration bars, chocolate and protein synthesis, designed to keep humans alive in extreme conditions. Marcus had no idea if alien physiology could process human food, but the cub's desperate condition made the risk worth taking. Breaking off a small piece, Marcus placed it on the ground between them and backed away. The cub's nostrils flared. Apparently, it could detect scents through his suit's filtration system. After several tense moments, the creature crept forward and tentatively sampled the offering. The effect was immediate. The cub's eyes widened, and it devoured the piece before looking up at Marcus with something approaching gratitude. Marcus smiled and offered another piece, this time from his extended hand. For the next hour, Marcus fed the cub small portions while documenting its behavior and physical characteristics. The creature was clearly intelligent. It learned quickly that Marcus wasn't a threat, and even began making soft purring sounds when he spoke. Its fur gradually regained some luster, and its movements became more confident. Marcus was about to leave when a shadow fell across the clearing. He looked up to see a figure that made his breath catch in his throat. Standing at the edge of the tree line was what could only be the cub's mother, and she was magnificent. Nearly 7 feet tall, with the same shimmering fur as her offspring, she possessed a grace that seemed to defy physics. Her build was humanoid, but distinctly alien, with elongated limbs and a facial structure that combined feline features with something almost elvish. Her 4 arms moved with fluid precision, and when she stepped into the clearing, Marcus could see the powerful muscles beneath her fur. But it was her eyes that truly captured him, intelligent, ancient, and currently fixed on him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. The cub immediately bounded toward its mother, chattering excitedly in a series of melodic chirps and trills. She scooped it up with 2 arms while keeping the other 2 free, a defensive posture Marcus recognized. Her gaze never left him as she listened to her offspring's apparent account of recent events. Marcus slowly stood, hands visible and movements deliberate. The universal language of peaceful intent seemed to translate, as the mother's posture relaxed marginally. She approached him with liquid steps, her cub perched contentedly on her shoulder. When she stopped just arm's length away, Marcus caught her scent through his suit's filters, something like cinnamon and ozone, wild and clean. She studied his face through his helmet's visor with curiosity rather than hostility. Then she did something extraordinary. Reaching into what appeared to be a natural pouch in her fur, she withdrew several crystalline fruits, the same prismatic structures Marcus had been cataloging, but clearly organic rather than mineral. She offered them to him with a gesture that needed no translation. Marcus accepted the gift with both hands, noting the warmth of the crystals and the way they seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The cub chattered approvingly, and its mother's expression, alien though it was, conveyed unmistakable gratitude. "Thank you," Marcus said, knowing she couldn't understand the words, but hoping she'd comprehend the emotion behind them. She tilted her head at the sound, then did something that made Marcus's heart skip. She spoke, not in the chirps and trills her cub used, but in a voice like wind through crystal chimes, attempting to mimic the cadence and tone of his words. You?" she managed, the alien pronunciation somehow making the familiar words sound like poetry. Marcus laughed, a sound of pure delight that seemed to please her. Her cub added its own happy chatter, and for a moment, the three of them stood in a circle of mutual appreciation that transcended species barriers. When they parted ways, the mother and cub disappearing into the forest with the fluid grace of beings born to move through trees, Marcus found himself changed. The crystalline fruits sat in his pack alongside his geological samples, but they represented something far more valuable than any mineral deposit. He'd come to Kepler 442b looking for resources to extract and exploit. Instead, he'd found something infinitely more precious, proof that kindness was indeed a universal language, and that sometimes the most beautiful discoveries happened when you were brave enough to share what little you had with a stranger. As Marcus made his way back to his temporary shelter, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of his encounter with the mysterious mother and her cub. Something in her ancient, intelligent eyes suggested their paths would cross again. And for the first time since arriving on this alien world, Marcus found himself hoping his survey mission would take much longer than originally planned.